Hello. I think I'm ready to start now. Hello. Can everybody hear me? Welcome to another episode of Torn Book Club. Everybody is already well into the chat, so looks like we have a new person, Frandolph. Welcome, Frandolph. We are very kind people here, so don't be shy about talking. And okay, everybody hears me. Good. So this is our first post San Diego Comic-Con episode of the book club, and there will be much discussions. Ava is asking, will there be spoilers for Ready Player One in today's discussion? I'm really enjoying it, but haven't finished it yet. I'm going to keep away from spoilers. I'm not going to talk about the ending of the book, except to say that I really liked it and that I thought it brought the story to a very satisfying conclusion. So on today's agenda, we will be talking about July's book of the month, which was, let me bring it up here, it was Ready Player One by Ernest Cline, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and I hope you did too. And if you didn't read it, don't worry, we're not going to go into spoilers. I'm going to discuss what I liked about it, and what I may not have liked as much about it. There was very little in this to not like. And we'll also be talking about a little teaser trailer that hit the net earlier this week, because we have to. And a quick recap of San Diego Comic-Con. For those of you who watch Torn Tuesdays, which I hope you all do, I did crash Torn Tuesday this past week. Mostly I was just there to say farewell to the Happy Hobbits, because they were going to be getting on a plane right after the broadcast, and I wanted to say farewell and give them hugs and say goodbye. But I got there a little earlier than I expected, and ended up crashing the show for a bit. So that's how that happened. So I might do that more often. It was a lot of fun. Pardon me if I sound a little congested. This is the first time in over 20 years of going to conventions that I actually got con sickness. So I'm getting over that a little bit. So if you'll pardon me if I sound a little under the weather. Haravandi says, you should crash Torn Tuesday more often. Well, Cliff told me I have an open invite to crash anytime I want to, which I may take him up on, because I work probably about 10 minutes away from Meltdown Comics. So a quick recap of... So, I Stole the One Ring is asking, so Josh, was the teaser trailer in front of Guardians of the Galaxy when you saw it? Yes, it was. I went to see Guardians of the Galaxy last night and got to see the teaser trailer for The Hobbit in big, glorious digital projection on the big screen, and it was really amazing. So, I'm going to be honest with you about San Diego Comic-Con. I'm not the biggest fan of it. It's one of those cons that I feel has gotten too big for its own britches and is becoming more and more like a trade show. And it's always so busy and so crowded and so frenetic that I always feel like I'm rushing from one thing to another, and I never have any time to really just enjoy it or even enjoy the company of the people I'm with. So, like, even though I was there and I was hanging out with friends, I sort of felt like we were just sort of biding time until we needed to rush to the next thing. So there was very little time to just like sort of sit down and chat and enjoy everybody's company, except like at the end of the night when we're all just dead tired from the day already, so we can barely talk. So Aravandi is saying Justin watched the trailer for the first time and his reaction was priceless. Yes, I did see his reaction on Torn Tuesday, and that was pretty funny. I gotta say, I did enjoy that. Pardon me. Pardon me while I get back up. Yeah, I was hello Rocket Hobbit. That's quite an appropriate username you've got there. I don't know if that has to do with Rocket from Guardians of the Galaxy, but I like it nonetheless. Temple was asking me, is there any annual con that you particularly like? The one that I really like is WonderCon, because it's smaller, it's a little bit more laid back, there's still a lot to do, and you can still just kick back and meet new people and find new friends. Like that's the main reason that I go to conventions, is to socialize and to network. And you really can't do that too much at Comic-Con. So, this is probably going to be my last year going to Comic-Con for a while. But I plan to make up for that by going to many other smaller cons. Because the other thing about Comic-Con is that it's a very expensive endeavor. Between food and hotels and travel and all that stuff, like it costs me a couple $1,000 every year. So I can do way more productive vacations with that kind of money. So before we get into Rocket Hobbit is saying, I love talking about cons and people's different experiences. I've only been to one small one. SDCC sounds nuts. And yes, it is. It's definitely nuts. Jan isn't here. Rovandir is saying, why isn't Jan here? That's a good point. He's not here. He always seems to not be here when we have stuff to tell him. Like, he was gone when I finally sat down and watched The Dark Knight Rises again. And I was going to lord it over him. But, oh well. There were pirates at the con you just went to, Rovandir. That's awesome. I love that. So, that was just some quick con talk. Now let's go into a little trailer analysis, which I'm sure at this point you all have seen, but this would not be a Torn show if I don't talk about it, and I have plenty to talk about. Now, the show did start a little late today because I was trying to load up a whole bunch of images from the trailer to demonstrate, but it proved to be too much for my software to bear. So, unfortunately, I won't have any visual aids for this analysis. So you'll just have to bear with me and picture everything in your head. So what I am going to do is... Where is it? Yep, that's not it. Pardon me. Give me 1 second here. And there we go. Okay, so I just brought up the images that I was gonna talk about. And so I will just go through them on my end and talk about them, and you can sort of take them from there. So Rocket Hobbit is asking, what's the next big convention up for Torn? I think a few of us are probably going to be going to Dragon Con. Unfortunately, I won't be able to this year because I blew all my money on San Diego. So I'm going to miss out on it this year, but hopefully next year I'll be able to go. I've never been, and I've heard nothing but great things about it. But there's usually a number of Torn staffers who go to Dragon Con Um, and there's usually a good some good panels. And so we have talked about possibly doing a panel at at Kamikaze Expo, which is here in LA. I don't know if that'll actually happen. I think we're submitting some things, so hopefully something will happen there. So let's talk trailer here. So some of the first things that I noticed about this trailer was that there's a lot of aftermath in this trailer. We don't see a whole lot of... We see some flashes of battles and confrontations, but we see a whole lot more aftermath. We see Thranduil walking through Dale clearly after the battle is done, because we see lots of fresh dead bodies. We only have one shot of Smaug setting fire to Lake Town, but it's a pretty awesome shot. Clearly, he's only going to need to take just a few shots at Lake Town to set the whole thing ablaze. And another thing that I noticed was there were a lot of callbacks in this to the Lord of the Rings. Most particularly with the Lake Town refugees leaving Lake Town. You see the smoldering ruin in the background. And it was very reminiscent of the people in Two Towers when everybody leaves Edoras to go to Helm's Deep. And I really like that. I like that callback. And of course the big callback was having Pippin's song being played during it, which I thought was strangely appropriate. Like, it worked very, very well. Let's see, Ustreamer 864110 saying, I don't know what's wrong with me. I haven't watched the trailer not even half as many times as I watched the DOS trailer, maybe because I recently finished reading the book. Well, I mean, the other thing you have to remember is that this is a teaser trailer, so we're just getting a small taste of what's happening. Just some quick shots, most of which are probably taken out of context. It's just to entice us. The real trailer, Peter Jackson says, is not coming out until October. But I mean, what we did see is certainly enticing. We saw a bit of a Galadriel in a Dol Guldur. Again, clearly after they have fought and freed Gandalf, because we see her kissing the forehead of an unconscious Gandalf, which was a beautiful shot, and I can't wait to see that whole thing. One of my friends was joking last night about Galadriel and saying, does she not believe in shoes because she's walking barefoot through Dol Guldur? And I was just like, because she's Galadriel. That's what she does. Edu is asking, what's going on, guys? Right now we are talking trailer analysis. For those who may not know, this is Torn Book Club. We will be discussing, where we discuss all sorts of books and nerdy things. Right now we're doing a little trailer analysis of the big Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies teaser trailer that hit the internet. And later on, we'll be talking about July's book of the month, which was Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. So stay tuned for that. So yeah, shoes, bah, they're for plebeians. Yeah, like, I don't know, if I saw Galadriel wearing shoes, I think that would be even crazier than her being barefoot. So, what are some of the other shots here? So, if we go into Ustreamer87 is asking, do you think Pippin's song will actually be included in the Battle of the Five Armies? I don't think so. Although you never know. What I like is the fact that Pippin's song in the book is actually a song that's sung by Bilbo. So it is possible we could hear Bilbo sing that song, which I think would be amazing. But I mean, we'll have to wait and see. But I don't think that we'll actually hear that song in the movie. That was just here to set the mood for this, and I thought it did a fantastic job. Going into some specifics, the one thing that I did like, there were a number of things that I liked about this. One of the big ones was the exchange between Bard and Thorin, where Bard says, will you have peace or war? And what I liked about his delivery of that was that he seemed to be almost pleading with him, which says to me that at this point Bard has gone to the elves, he's gone to the dwarves, he's gone to Dane's army. He's basically like been trying to parlay for peace with everybody, and Thorin is his last resort, and he is desperate. And then we have Thorin reply with, I will have war, and which is just absolutely devastating. And what I liked about that shot, not just of him wearing the crown, which was really cool because like that's sort of him like embodying his birthright, which is also madness. But also when you hear him say, I will have war, they do a little modulation to his voice when he says war, so that it sounds almost like super demonic, which I really liked because that sort of shows like the madness has truly taken him, and that's gonna make what happens later even more tragic and his redemption even more powerful. And then a lot of people in the chat were talking about the line that Thorin says at the end, will you join me one last time? And some people are Ustreamer042 is saying that it's not just what Thorin says, but what PJ says also, and that's sort of how I took it too. And it actually like sort of got me. Like this is the last time. This is our last journey into Middle Earth cinematically that we're probably going to see for a very long time. Because beyond this, we have the Silmarillion, which we're probably not going to see in any sort of film form until it goes public domain, which probably isn't going to happen for another 100 years. So, unless the Tolkien estate has a dramatic change of heart, this is the last we're going to see. And that's kind of sad. It's a little heartbreaking because this is something that's been a part of my life, and I'm sure it's been a part of your lives for the last 13 years. And it's very sad to see it come to an end. And everybody's talking about how much they're going to be crying, and I'm sure that I will cry too. Probably not as much as Return of the King, but I know that I will shed a tear. Because Return of the King just gets me. Like, it hits me right in the gut every time, no matter how many times I watch it. And I don't know whether or not the Battle of the Five Armies will do that. It may. I don't know. I don't think it has quite the gravitas, but we'll see. Frandolph was asking, what do you think of the tagline, the defining chapter? I thought that was an interesting use of words. because it's not just saying the defining chapter, it's saying the defining chapter of the Middle-earth saga, which includes The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. So basically they're trying to sell this as the bridge movie. This is the movie that will set the stage for The Lord of the Rings while also resolving all the events in The Hobbit, and that's a lot for one movie to bear. I hope it's able to pull it off. I have faith in Peter Jackson that he can do it. But at the same time, that is a lot of weight for one movie. It certainly makes me far more curious to see exactly what happens. But at the same time makes me a little nervous that it might bite off more than it can chew. But we'll see. One person was joking during the trailer that when we saw it last night, as the trailer ended, he was saying, yeah, that's about the last 2 chapters of the book. And yeah, he's not wrong. Well, it might be more than 2 chapters, maybe 3, maybe 4, but not a lot. So Rocket is saying, I just hope the CGI doesn't overwhelm the Battle of the Five Armies. And yeah, I agree with you, Rocket. That was something that really has kind of bugged me with the Hobbit movies, is that there is so much CGI in it. I really miss all the practical effects that we had in Lord of the Rings. It really does sort of make everything feel a little bit more real. And when you have everything CG, and even at the 48 frames per second, everything just feels a little off. Like, you sort of have that little uncanny valley feel to it, which for some people it's totally okay. For me, it kind of takes me out of it a little bit. Not to the point where I can't watch it, but it does, I'm not as engrossed as I was with, say, Lord of the Rings, which like sucked me in completely, like within the first 10 minutes of Fellowship, and never let me go. What is this? Everything is going by so fast. Temple is saying, but thinking about it, there's a lot that happens in the last 2 to 3 chapters that's visual rather than verbal. Makes sense that the movie would comprise only a small number of chapters. That's also very true. There are a lot of things there. In The Hobbit, it's mostly the adventure, but then in the last few chapters, Tolkien really does compress this huge epic battle into just a couple chapters. He glosses over many of the details and basically ends it. Now, he doesn't deliberately set the stage for Lord of the Rings in that, except he sort of leaves a couple hooks, particularly with part of the denouement, which I'm hoping will actually make it into the movie, where I think it's a year or 2 after Balin and Gandalf visit Bilbo at Bag End, and they sort of sit back and reminisce over their fun times. They reminisce over their adventures, and Balin also talks about that how he is on his way to reclaim the Lost Kingdom of Moria, which of course sets up Suzanne is saying hi and bye. She was here for a little bit. Okay, enjoy your game, Suzanne. Imagine if the plot twist was to stay with Bilbo, he gets knocked out, and we miss the whole battle. I thought that was a couple of us have joked about that, Rocket, about like the Battle of the Five Armies coming, and then Bilbo gets conked out, and he wakes up, and the whole thing has already happened. I think that's a little too evil for PJ to do, but it would be hilarious. Um, so, what? Let me just go back to what I have here. So, some of the speculation that we had, and I was discussing this a lot with my fellow Torrent staffers at Comic-Con, as I was helping them to prep for the panel. And that was the idea that Tauriel will not survive the movie. Everybody seems to take it as a foregone conclusion that Tauriel is dead elf walking, that she will have a noble sacrifice that will galvanize Legolas into softening, and also to turning Thranduil into a more benevolent king and not so isolationist. I am of the opinion that I'm of the opinion that she will not die. That she will be able to do all of that and survive. Because, yes, she is going to be the one who will soften Legolas. She is the one who will soften Thranduil. But I like to think that she can do all of that and still live. So Tauriel isn't even supposed to be in the films, but she might be a reason for PJ to keep Keely alive. Thoughts? I think Keely is still not long for this world. I think after the events of the battle, she won't want to hang around. She may live, but she'll definitely suffer loss. And that's true, Rocket. And that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that she's definitely going to be the trigger to change the attitudes of Legolas. Maybe even Thranduil, because we do see him walking through the ruins of Dale with a sort of shocked look on his face. So even he's starting to soften. But I like to think that Tauriel can do all of this and still just maybe just leave and go off and become a ranger. But we'll see. This is an unknown, and I like that there's an unknown here. Rocket Hobbit says, nope, they will wipe the heirs out. That's the tragedy of reclaiming the mountain. Yeah. And I agree that that the tragedy of reclaiming the mountain is that all of the heirs to the king under the mountain die, which is how Dane takes up the mantle of king under the mountain. So those are my thoughts on Tauriel, and until I am proved otherwise by the movie, I'm going to stick with that assertion. And clearly, also in this movie, they are building up Bard as the hero, which I don't have a problem with. I think Luke Evans has done a fantastic job as Bard. He's making him very human. He's not so much conflicted, but as somebody who is fighting for a lot of different really important things. Rocket is saying, I think Tauriel has more to offer. Philippa Boyens didn't just plant her in the movies to be in a love triangle. And that's true. And one of the things that I like about Tauriel is that even if there is a love triangle going on, she seems to be the least interested in being a part of that. Which is one of the things that I really like about her. She's like, we've got more important things to worry about. Gracie Martina is saying, how do you think Thorin will die? I have a theory, but I won't know if it is true until I see the movie. This was a big discussion that a lot of us had. there is because we have both Azog and Bolg in the battle, and the thinking that we have is that he's going to get into a fight with Azog, and Azog is going to deliver the fatal blow to Thorin. At which point, Beorn will come in and kill Azog, because Beorn even also has his own quest for vengeance against Azog. How Bolg will go is anybody's guess, really. I sort of felt that Bolg at this point is kind of an unnecessary character, because in Desolation of Smaug, he really just felt like he was basically just an avatar for Azog. Like, he didn't really do anything else. Like, Azog went to take control of the army, and then Bolg pretty much does exactly what Azog would have done had he not had to go somewhere. Ustreamer81 is saying, "Oh my god, my eyes are already going wet only imagining that." I know, it's going to be tragic. Like, there is no way that this movie is not going to be truly tragic. Rocket is saying, "I have a very dark feeling that Bolg will be the one to dispatch Feely and Keely, as it were, not some nameless orc." I think so too, because and I mean, we're going into spoiler territory for anybody who hasn't read the book. But Keely and Feely do not make it. And that's the big tragedy. Thorin, Keely, and Feely all perish, which means the line of Thror is now gone. And that's the price they pay. So we're talking about Radagast now. I think Radagast will make it into the battle. I hope so, anyway. I mean, he's definitely going to be in the battle at Dol Guldur, along with Galadriel and probably Elrond. And even Saruman, because Christopher Lee has been talking a lot about how this is the most screen time he's had in any Middle-earth film. And quite frankly, seeing Saruman in battle, I can't wait to see that. And Galadriel. I am really looking forward to seeing, like, Galadriel in battle. So I'd have to say, like, as much as I'm looking forward to the Battle of the Five Armies, it's the battle at Dol Guldur, which I am really looking forward to. Rocket is saying, "We didn't see Dane in the teaser. Maybe they reserved that reveal for the trailer in October." That's possible, but I will say that I think we did get a glimpse of him in the teaser, in that scenario with the big battle wagon that's riding away from Erebor and heading towards Dale that encounters some wargs. A lot of us believe that is actually Dane who is driving the wagon. So, we'll see. I mean, we really don't see that much of him, but I believe that is our first glimpse of Dane. So Rocket is making the good point that Christopher Lee couldn't even travel for An Unexpected Journey, and I doubt he'll be doing much action, maybe a spell or two. That's an interesting point. But I don't know. We'll see. Like, I don't know how Saruman will figure into this battle, if he will be somebody who is there in the action, or if he is off in the back, sort of casting spells from a distance, kind of like he did in Fellowship. But, I mean, we will see Radagast in battle, and at some point, Radagast will give Gandalf his staff, because we've already seen that connection, how Gandalf had a different staff in these movies. It got destroyed by Sauron in the last movie. Radagast's staff looks exactly like the one that Gandalf has in Lord of the Rings. So at some point, a giving of a staff is going to happen. Will it be because Radagast dies, or will it be because Radagast gives up his post and decides to just go walk the earth. We'll have to see. I'm hoping for the latter because I don't want to see Radagast die. Edu is saying, I think Galadriel will face Sauron in Dol Guldur and something will happen so we will be able to understand what happens to her in Lothlorien in Fellowship of the Ring. That would be interesting. I think it would be... That would be actually very cool if somehow she was able to connect mentally with Sauron, and Sauron basically convinces her that she is too weak, and that if confronted with great power, she will take it. And she spends all this time building up that resistance so that when she finally is offered the ring in Fellowship, she gives it back to Frodo and says, I passed the test. And it gives that scene like a lot more intensity. Like this is her moment to prove not only to Sauron but also to herself that she is stronger. And I would like that. I think that would be really cool. Whatever happens to Radagast, one would think Gandalf would call on him in Fellowship. Not... Well, I mean, with everything that we've seen of him in this, yeah, you would think that he would be somebody that Gandalf would go to. But again, like Tauriel, that doesn't necessarily mean that he has to die. It just means that he's probably going to leave. Let's see, Ustreamer646 is asking, do you think we will get a peek of the corruption of Saruman in the Battle of the Five Armies? I think that's definitely something that we need to see, even if it's just him uncovering the Palantir. We're definitely going to see some of the start of Saruman's downfall. And Ava is saying correctly that Radagast is briefly in Fellowship of the Ring, the book. And he is. And he's basically there just to deliver Gandalf a message that the Nine have left Minas Morgul and are looking for Frodo. Which, in the movie, Saruman tells him. And I think at that point it was done to sort of condense all the other minor roles into a few bigger roles, like the fact that they meet Arwen at the ford instead of Glorfindel, who basically serves no purpose except to take Frodo to Rivendell. At least story-wise. I mean, he does participate in the Council of Elrond, but Radagast, yeah, okay. Yeah, Rocket is asking, really? I don't remember that. Yeah, it's in there. It's a very short scene. It's a very short appearance, and it's while Gandalf is on his way to meeting Saruman. And that message is... He delivers that message and basically says, and now I am back. Now I'm going to go back to living amongst the trees and not dealing with your craziness. So, I like to believe that Radagast will live. I like to believe that Tauriel will live. No, Rocket, you should not hand in your nerd card. I only remember that because I've read the books like about 10 times. So don't worry about that. And like I said, it's a very short appearance, and we all it's a big book. It's one scene in a big book. Don't worry, Rocket. We're not all expected to remember everything we read verbatim. If we were, this would be a much more difficult show for me to do. So we talked about this teaser trailer, which is only about 2 minutes long, for a good 45 minutes. So I think I'm going to bring that to a close and move on to our other discussion of Ready Player One, if that's okay with you. But thank you all. I know that we have a lot of big opinions about this, as we should. And so let's move on. Oh, nope. There we go. Move on to our book of the month, or our discussion of book of the month, which is Ready Player One. Rocket is saying Justin would be kicked out. Now, to be fair, Justin has read every other book except The Hobbit. He has read Lord of the Rings. He has read The Silmarillion. He has read Unfinished Tales. He just hasn't read The Hobbit. And at this point, I think it's probably best that he waits until the movies are done and then read the book. But yes. So let's talk a little Ready Player One, shall we? Yeah, maybe? Huh? You think? Okay. So let's talk quickly about the premise of this book. Did the show just go out? It did not. I'm still going. Does everybody else still see me? I hope so. I didn't get any notification that the stream just died. Oh, okay. Stupid internet. Okay, good. Everybody sees me. Okay. So, Rovandir is saying, I think I better go to Facebook, and I get way too many messages at the moment. What happens when you have been at a con and at the same time is in Gishwez? Oh, God. Oh, no. You're doing a con and Gishwez at the same time? That's insane. If you're not familiar with Gishwez, it's a special scavenger hunt that is that was created by Misha Collins, who is an actor from the show Supernatural, and it's an anagram that stands for the greatest international scavenger hunt the world has ever seen. It's fun. I haven't done it yet. A lot of my friends are doing it. And so I'm getting lots of very weird requests on Facebook right now for very bizarre things. So it'll be a fun week. So goodbye, Ro. Enjoy your scavenger hunt. What is that? Rocket is asking, epic win. Do you watch Supernatural? I do. I've watched every episode. It's one of my favorite shows. I absolutely love it. I think it has gotten stronger this past season, and I'm looking forward to the next one. So, Ready Player One. Let us talk Ready Player One. Now, I actually read this book a while ago because I'm trying to read ahead into the further books of the month that we'll be doing for the rest of the year. So I actually read this one a while ago. So forgive me, I have to bring up the Wikipedia page of it just to refresh my memory of mostly of character names. And getting some, what is that? I'm getting some Twitter stuff. Okay, getting new followers, yay. Okay. Wait, so people are confusing me with Justin now? Oh no. Oh. Oh dear. Okay. I'll just have to deal with that. so the general premise of Ready Player One is it takes place. I don't want to say in a post-apocalyptic future, but in a dystopian future where basically the status quo has gotten lower and lower and lower as our resources have declined. Most people tend to escape all this. Like, there are environmental disasters. There are very few resources. People generally live in things called stacks, which, if let me bring up the cover here, you can kind of see in the background here, is basically stacked mobile homes that are very structurally unstable. Basically, everybody is sort of living in a very ugly dystopian world, and the big escape for everybody is a video game called The Oasis, which the best corollary to it that we have today is Second Life, where it's basically an online universe that is constantly being updated, added to, and there's really no point to it. There's no game to it. It's basically just an alternate virtual world. But it's also a very big one, and it's a very intense one, and it's one that everybody gets in. Just about everybody is a part of, and you enter it through these special VR interface, virtual reality interface. And so the main premise of the story is that the creator of the Oasis, whose name is I believe it's James Halliday or something Halliday, he dies, and he has died as the richest man in the world. Rocket is saying it sounds like an episode of Red Dwarf. It does a little bit. And Temple is saying, I found the virtual reality school a very interesting concept. Yeah, and I'm going to get to that. But first of all, the main trigger for the story itself is that Halliday, the inventor of the Oasis and all the technology to access it, he passes away, an extraordinarily rich man. Like, I think his fortune was like 400 billion or something like that. It's like a ridiculous amount of money. But he was also a hermit. He was a loner. He had no family, and so his big announcement upon his death was that he has hidden a very special Easter egg somewhere in the Oasis, and there are very subtle clues in the Oasis, which, by the way, is a humongous virtual simulation. That if you can find all the clues and get to the right spot, and you can, the first person to find this Easter egg will get his fortune, which is humongous. Like, this is the amount of money that basically, in the wrong hands, could destroy the world, and in the right hands could save it. So there's like a very real world impact to this quest. And so you have all these people who are on the Oasis suddenly taking up the mantle of trying to find this Easter egg and researching all of Halliday's life, going through everything, and basically creating a religion out of it all. And they were basically called Gunters, which is short for egg hunter. And the main focus of the story is on this kid named Wade, who goes by the name Parzival, which is rather appropriate because it's from the word Percival, which is the Arthurian knight who found the Holy Grail for Arthur. And he's a gunter, and it's about his adventures in the Oasis and outside the Oasis, I should mention, trying to find the Easter egg and the quest to find it. And it really is like this epic Grail quest. And the big thing about the Oasis, and what makes this such an incredibly wonderfully geeky story, is that the Oasis is made up almost entirely of pop culture references. There are worlds that are based on Middle-earth. There are worlds that are based on Blade Runner. There are worlds that are based on old 8-bit video games. There are worlds that are based on anime. Basically anything you can think of, there is a world in the Oasis for it. And the creator, James Halliday, was a big fan of 80s pop culture. And so as a result, all these people who have been researching his life and forming a pseudo-religion around it to try to discover where his Easter egg is, have basically sort of created this whole new cultural resurgence in 80s nostalgia. So the world of the Oasis is just chock full of 80s nostalgia, and as a result, so much of it is also in the book. And so the book itself sort of becomes like this like intense litmus test for nerdiness, because like you will find yourself reading this book and going, oh my god, I remember that, oh, I see what they're talking about, and actually you sort of find yourself like trying to figure out the Easter eggs along with Wade and all of his friends. So Rocket seems to be really into this concept. So you can find this book on Amazon. And to add to the geeky stuff with it, if you are a big if you like audiobooks, the audiobook for this is read by Will Wheaton, and it's fantastic, like, because he really gets into it. And so Ava is saying reading the book makes you want to play all these 80s video games. There are some I was like, wow, like part of the big quest is actually having to play and win 3 rounds of the game Joust, which, if you remember that game at all, was one of the most infuriating games ever made. So some of the other characters who are in this is a character named H, and a character named Artemis, who basically sort of become part of Wade's team. Temple is saying, I can't tell you how happy I was about all the references to the 80s. I was so a child of the 80s. I was happy when they finally had a Robotech reference. Rocket is asking who wrote it. The author's name is Ernest Cline. So I would highly recommend that. So yeah, just look up Ready Player One on Amazon and you should be able to find it quite easily. So now we also have villains in this. The main one is a character named Nolan Sorrento, who is he's the head of a division of a group called Innovative Online Industries, or IOI. And they are a big multinational corporation that has basically been trying to take over the Oasis and make it and set up subscriptions, because at this point Halliday has kept the Oasis free for anybody who wants to join in. So that's how so many people are on board. So if IOI were to take over the Oasis, They would monetize it. They would set up high-level subscription services, and basically everybody would leave, and their world would be destroyed, because then they'd have to go back to the real world, which is also slowly being destroyed itself. And so during the quest, Sorrento has set up this whole division in IOI of people who go into the Oasis for the express purpose of trying to find the Easter egg. And they're called Sixers because their usernames are always their IOI identification number, which is a 6-digit number, which in their division also begins with the number 6. So they're called Sixers, and they are widely hated by everybody else in the Oasis. But Sorrento also has hundreds and maybe thousands of employees at his disposal, so it's really an almost unbeatable army. Temple is saying, well, it would also limit it to people who had money, and with so many people in poverty, it would essentially become a ghost town. It would. So basically, this quest is now a race between the Gunters, who want to find the egg and use the money for good, and Sorrento and the Sixers, who want to find the Easter egg and use the money to get a controlling share in the Oasis, and totally change the dynamic of the world. So as we also find out is that people like Artemis, and even Wade to a certain extent, have very big plans for what they would do if they got this money, about how they would invest it in new technologies to help save the world. I mean, first Wade, he's very he's a very disaffected youth kind of character. So his idea of what he would do with all this money is he would use it to build an interstellar starship, take all of his stuff and his few friends, and just leave Earth completely. That's what he would do with it. Artemis would rather take that money and filter it into new technologies to help sort of revitalize the planet. So what you have are these like very important real world impacts of this virtual game. And so that makes what's happening have real stakes, which I thoroughly enjoy, because now like there are like real things that can happen here. There are real consequences to this, and also the guys at IOI, they're hacking into the system to find out where Wade and his friends are, to actually find them in the real world and assassinate them. So their lives are genuinely in danger. Like these are the stakes of this. And that's what I like is that it is not just a virtual video game story. It is a quest with real world impacts, and with like real genuine dangers, not just like, oh, your character in the Oasis gets killed, which in and of itself is a pretty terrible thing, because you don't get to regenerate in the Oasis. If your character dies, it dies, and you have to create a whole new one. But beyond that, there is also the real danger of you yourself in the real world getting killed. So Temple is saying Rocket and Temple are talking about how this is relevant to our technology addicted generation, and how it's also relevant to keeping the internet free and open. And I would agree on both parts. It is a very relevant story. It's also a very fun story, and that's what I think is so good about this book, is that it's very relevant, it's very topical, it's engrossing, and it's fun. Like, it is a true adventure, that just keeps you invested, and also is giving you a very strong, powerful message without beating you over the head with it. And I can't talk about that too much because then I would go into spoiling the ending, which I do not want to do. The ending is fantastic, and it really does. It ties everything together and wraps it up very nicely, and has a very powerful and very strong message attached to it, which I won't go into. But what we have are also these amazing epic battles inside the Oasis, with just like thousands upon thousands of Gunters and Sixers fighting each other in like huge epic space battles and ground battles, and then you have everybody fighting in giant robots. Like you have Ultraman fighting Gundam, fighting Mechagodzilla. It's insane. And that's something that was like, it was really cool just to see all this stuff come together, and yet still work. Like you have scenes where you have a part where one of the tasks that they need to complete in order to get to the next part of the quest is they have to reenact the entirety of the movie War Games. There's another bit where they have to they have to play Joust. There's another bit. Oh, Frandolph needs to leave. Goodbye, Frandolph. Thank you for coming, and I hope you will return. And there's another bit that I won't go into. It does have later impacts in the climax of the book, but there's a bit where Wade basically has to play a perfect game of Pac-Man. I won't go too much into what that entails, because there's apparently like there is a lot that you need to do to play a perfect game of Pac-Man, but it can be done. And Edu has to leave too. Goodbye, Edu. Thank you for coming, and I hope you will come back next week. So, what was I talking about? All of the references. So, yeah, there are tons of fantastic pop culture references in this, which I think is which is why I chose it for the book of the month for July, because July had a theme of geek culture, and it was hard for me to find a book that was any geekier than this book. But more than just being geeky, it was such a fun read. Like, I got through it so quickly, and as soon as I was done, I wanted to go back and start it all over again. It was that good. So some people have talked about, that I've seen, have been talking about how there is apparently a movie version of this in the works. I personally do not see how that can happen, at least in any way that would make it very faithful and very true to the book, because the licensing alone would send the budget of this movie into like Avatar territory. It would be a very hard movie to make, as Temple says. You would basically have to pull off the amazing licensing feat that they did with Who Framed Roger Rabbit in order to make this work. Because, Who Framed Roger Rabbit is the only time ever in history that we actually had Mickey Mouse and Bugs Bunny on screen at the same time. It may have happened since then, but Roger Rabbit was definitely the first time it happened. because it's a long-standing rivalry between those two, and so just the amount of legal fees and licensing and all of that negotiation that needs to happen, that would stymie any effort to make this movie, or at least to make it relevant. Like if it were done by one studio, they'd have to be limited to the titles that studio owns. And unfortunately, that sort of limits what you can do. Rocket is saying, sounds like an adventure best left to the imagination. Why let Hollywood warp it? Well, I don't know if that Hollywood could warp it. I think that as a movie, it would do... It's very easy to imagine it, and therefore I think that narratively speaking, it would make a good movie. It's just legally speaking, in order to get the licenses you need to make it as effective as it is in the book, it would be logistically difficult at best. So, and it's a shame, because I would love to see a movie version of this, but with Hollywood legal systems the way it is, it's not likely to happen. Or at least to happen the way it does in the book. If we do see a movie of it, it might be a little bit more limited. It could still be a good movie, but we probably won't see as much as we are hoping we would see. But having said that, the book itself, I think, is more than enough to get your imagination going and to just sort of make you feel happy. Like just seeing all these references and knowing all of them and just seeing how many you can get, and even like just sort of finding yourself trying to figure out everything before the main characters do, just to see if your knowledge of pop culture is on par with them, and sort of seeing like how well you would do as a Gunter. And I will say, like, I would say the first couple bits of the quest, I did figure them out before the main characters did, but only just. And one of them was a reference to something that I don't really know all that well, which is Dungeons and Dragons. I've only played a couple games of Dungeons and Dragons when I was younger, and never really got into it, mostly because I had a GM who was terrible, and it sort of turned me off of the whole thing, which is a shame. But I'm getting back into gaming now. I'm part of a gaming group, and we're meeting next week, so that'll be good. And our other regular guest who isn't here this week, Eve, she's not here because she is part of a gaming group, and they're having their game today. So there's lots of wonderful geeky stuff in this book, and I think that it... Pardon me. I had a late night last night, so I need my coffee. I think that this is a story that geeks will love. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. And that's really all I have to say about that. So anybody who hasn't read it, don't feel ashamed or anything like that. Like, this is not... It's a book club, but it doesn't mean you absolutely have to read every book of the month that comes along. It's entirely up to you. And I read them just so that I can lead a discussion on them. But that's my burden to bear. It doesn't have to be yours. And hopefully the discussions will encourage you to read more of these books. And so with that in mind, since we do have a new month, it is now the month of August, we also have a new book of the month. Now, we don't have a theme for this month. This is more sort of a free and open to sort of go over stuff that I may have not been able to get to in previous months. There were a few subjects that I wanted to talk about in previous months that I didn't get a chance to get to, so I'm going to do that in August. I'm also going to do it again in November, which will coincidentally be the 1 year anniversary of this show. That's crazy. So, with that in mind, let me reveal to you the book of the month for August. Now, this is a first. This is actually our first suggestion from one of our regulars. I haven't read this book. I don't know all that much about it, but it came recommended by one of our members who I don't know if she's still in the chat, but it's I Stole the One Ring recommended this book to me. And so I am going to take her on her word and make it the book of the month for August. And it is All Creatures Great and Small by James Herriot. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I've never read this book. I know very little about it. I Stole the One Ring recommended it highly. And I'm going to trust her judgment. And we're going to see how it goes. I'm looking forward to it. It definitely seems like I did a little looking at the plot synopsis. It's definitely a different kind of book than what we've tackled in the past. But I think it'll be an interesting it'll be an interesting read. So I don't know if I Stole the One Ring is still in the chat. If she isn't, that's okay. I will let her know. I'll make announcements on our Facebook and our Twitter of what the book of the month is, and I'll post links to how you can get it on Amazon or Audible, however you prefer to read it. If you choose to read it, again, it's entirely up to you. There is no obligation to read the book of the month. But yeah, so that's where we'll leave it. Our book of the month for August is All Creatures Great and Small. I'm looking forward to reading this, and I hope you are too. It sounds like a lot of people are like, "Oh, yay! I've been wanting to read this book." So, well, now you have a chance. And so that'll bring us to the end of this episode. Thank you for the lively discussion in the chat about the trailer. Thank you to the new people who came, Rocket, Frandolph, Edu. To all of our regulars who come back every week, thank you so much. Temple, Ava, I Stole the One Ring. Who else did I miss here? Eravandi, Rovandir. But Rovandir left. Suzanne, however briefly. So yeah, there are new people. Got a little bit of a boost over Comic-Con and through my little crashing of Torn Tuesday. So hopefully we'll get to that. Ava is asking a little off topic. What button badge are you wearing? This is one I got last night from Suzanne, who is also known as the Button Lady, who you may have seen from a video that was taken at Comic-Con this year of Benedict Cumberbatch at the Hobbit panel, saying the words "Button Lady" in the Smaug voice, which she requested of him. So Suzanne, the Button Lady, is a dear friend of mine, and she's also a regular on the show. And this is one that she made special for our group outing to Guardians of the Galaxy last night. And this one is of Star-Lord. And it says, "I have 12% of a plan." So that's what that is. Jan is here just in time to say goodbye to everybody. Hi and bye, Jan. Unfortunately, we're gonna bring this to a close. Um, I want to thank you all again for coming. Anybody I missed in saying hello, I am sorry. Rocket is saying, "Oh my God, I love Button Lady now." Yes, she's fantastic. She was in the chat just briefly as Suzanne 913. I think that's it. Yeah, and she'll be coming back off and on. So Temple is saying, "Quick, Jan, make a Batman joke." Oh, that's okay. I actually did get a Batman cape at Comic-Con. It's upstairs. Um, and Gracie Martina is also one of our new folks. Thank you for coming. So yeah. Again, our for Jan, since he just came in, our book of the month is All Creatures Great and Small. And that will be our book of the month for August. And I will bring this episode to a close. Thank you all again for coming and for all your wonderful chats. And you can follow me on Twitter at Torn Book Club. You can be a fan on Facebook. You can subscribe on YouTube and get archives of all of these episodes and watch previous episodes that you may have missed. And that's it. So I will see you all next week. I don't know what we'll be talking about yet, but we'll figure it out. And so, yes, I will see you next week. Same bad time, same bad channel. Ha-ha! I did it, Jan. I got a Batman joke in there. So, take care and never stop reading.